Hi there, it's CEPA fellow Carrie Oderman. Welcome to the CEPA Podcast, where we bring together leaders and experts from both sides of the Atlantic to explore the biggest challenges shaping our world today. We hope you enjoy the episode.
Hello, everyone. I'm Alina Polyakova, President and CEO of the Center for European Policy Analysis, and welcome to the CEPA Podcast. This is a special series with members of the U.S. Congress, and I'm absolutely thrilled to have the opportunity to speak today with Congressman Mike Lawler, representing the great state of New York, District 17. And welcome to the CEPA Podcast, Congressman. It's great to have you.
Thanks for having me, Alina. Appreciate it.
It's absolutely my pleasure. So we want to just have a conversation with you, get to know you a little bit here on the podcast. I was reading a little bit about your biography. You were born and raised in New York, a true New Yorker. You've had a long career both in state politics and local politics. And of course, now you're serving in the U.S. Congress on two really important committees, the Foreign Affairs Committee in the House and the Financial Services Committee. But I actually want to start with a question I wanted to ask you for a while, because we got to know each other because of your engagement and passion about the future of one country that I think many Americans are probably not that familiar with, and that's Moldova, a country of about 2.5 million people, very close to the Black Sea, though not on the Black Sea directly, sandwiched between Romania and Ukraine. You are even the co-chair of the Moldova Caucus together with your Democratic colleague, Deborah Ross. So let me just ask you, why are you so interested in this small country in Central Eastern Europe? And why is this a place that should matter to Americans who may not know that it even exists, honestly?
Well, Moldova was a country that did have Black Sea access and ultimately taken by the Soviets. This was a country that was part of Romania at one point, and then the Russians took it, then it went back, then the Soviets took it, and then it became an independent country nestled between Ukraine and Romania. But my interest, stems from the fact that my wife was born and raised in Moldova. Her family still lives in Moldova on the Ukraine border near Transnistria, breakaway region of Moldova. And so, over the course of our marriage, certainly I have visited Moldova multiple times, been, acutely aware of their domestic politics as a result of, my wife previously voting in elections. Obviously have seen the rise of the Sandu government and the efforts to join the EU. Really, end any dependence on or engagement by Russia. And I think, obviously, as with most of these former Soviet satellite states, there are challenges along the way. But during my time in Congress, I've wanted to help promote the U.S.-Moldovan relationship and support their efforts to join the EU and become more of a Western democracy, than a continued, Sovietic, state, if you will. I think the objective is to make sure that they have the support, both financially and governmentally, to end the corruption of the Russian oligarchs, and many of whom have stolen billions of dollars of wealth from the Moldovan people. Obviously, the Sandu government has been able to make some progress with respect to corruption, and going after the corruption within the government, which is important, especially as they seek to ascend to EU status. So that's been kind of the drive behind my interest, and obviously combating malign Russian influence in the region.
So thank you for that. And it often takes a love interest to get you interested in other parts of the world, and I very much respect that. Kudos to you. You mentioned two things I want to follow up on. You mentioned Maya Sandu, who, of course, is the president of Moldova. and she's someone that we at CEPA have also recognized as a real democracy fighter, someone who is so focused on ensuring the success of her country, the integration of her country into democratic institutions like those of the EU. We honored her for her work at CEPA a few years ago with our Freedom Fighter Award. Just an incredible, incredible leader. But the other thing you mentioned is the Russian interest in Moldova. So it's a small country, but it's a strategically important country. And Moldova has elections coming up at the end of September. What should be the message that you, as a member and a leading voice in the U.S. Congress, but what should be our message, not just to Maya Sandu and her government, but to the Moldovan people as they go to the ballot box in a election that's likely going to have a lot of Russian influence? It's already happening. You can read about it in the news. An election that's, I think, going to be very critical for the future of the small but incredibly strategically important nation.
Well, look, obviously, this is part of the reason why Ukraine is so important. If Ukraine were to fall, a country like Moldova would be in grave danger. And obviously, with Romania not only being part of the EU, but being a NATO member, you would have a significant challenge right on Romania's border, which would create real problems in the region. From the standpoint of the Moldovan people, I think they need to focus on the future and to continue to move forward with the effort to join the EU, to have greater economic investment and growth in their country. I've traveled through different parts of Moldova and seen, obviously, the changes over the past decade. For the better. A lot of investment, both from the U.S. and Europe. Obviously, they have a great wine industry that has grown, and you've seen, imports into the U.S. Within their wine industry, which is positive. In fact, one of my former colleagues, David Trone, is the greatest importer of Moldovan wine in the U.S. And so, I think there's real opportunity, but only if they continue in that ascension towards EU status. I think if there's democratic backsliding, if they start to recede back towards Russian influence, that's going to create real challenges moving forward. So, I think that they need to continue down the path. We saw, obviously, last year, Russian interference and earlier this year in Romania, and the impact that had on their elections. We want to avoid that, obviously, in Moldova, and I think the Moldovan people should continue down the path that they're on.
No, absolutely. And in addition to Ukraine, Moldova has been the first line of attack by Russia, both in the cyber domain, attacks on critical infrastructure. And it's really a country that's, as you said, I think holding the line between NATO and non-NATO countries, and doing it in a way that's frankly unbelievable for a country that size and a country that is still struggling with its own democracy, as you said. Sticking Moldova for just another second, and for those of you who may be listening have not tried Moldovan wine, it's excellent, and you should. It's very much on the radar these days of wine connoisseurs, and you're very, very right to bring that up.
Some great brands: Procari, Krikova, Castelmimi. Should try them all.
It's excellent wine. It's a big reason to go to Moldova, just to do some wine tastings. In the future, I'll get to do that. I haven't done it yet, but one of the things you have talked about for several years is the need for the U.S. to really empower Moldova to resist Russian malign influence that you brought up, and that it should be, our responsibility as well as a country to support Moldova's ability to defend itself. You, in the last Congress, introduced the U.S.-Moldova Defense Partnership Act together with Congresswoman Ross. And why? Let me just ask you a question. We're in a moment where in our country, we're all thinking about how do we do more with less? when it comes to defense budget, all budgets, right? And why should this be a priority? If we're thinking about how do we have the most advanced cutting edge military to defend our homeland, what's the argument for the United States committing resources to help Moldova defend itself?
Well, look, you need allies around the globe. And obviously, we've seen the malign influence of Russia, China, and Iran. We see, just a few weeks ago, the get together between President Xi, President Putin, and Kim Jong-un. Obviously, they are working together to undermine and to destabilize the U.S., Europe, Israel, and the free world. And I think we obviously have to be cognizant of that in the decisions we're making, both when it comes to foreign aid and soft power, as well as military aid and military cooperation. I just came back from a trip to Italy and North Africa, and we talked extensively about the Mediterranean and the importance of the Mediterranean strategically and militarily. Earlier this year, I was in Greece, and we went to Crete, Suda Bay, and saw our naval forces there. I visited the Sixth Fleet in Naples on this most recent trip. So there are a lot of strategic interests that the U.S. has in ensuring the stability, not just of Europe, but of the Middle East, having greater influence in North Africa, with Morocco and Tunisia, building greater military cooperation. And so Moldova is one of those countries, while it is small, it's an important country. And given the long-standing ties with Romania, a NATO ally, ensuring Moldova's sovereignty and stability is critical. And like I said, if Ukraine were to fall, a country like Moldova would be in serious peril.
And not just that, you also spoken in the past on other podcasts that shall remain unnamed on this podcast, but other podcasts, you've talked, I think, very eloquently about the threat that we would face, not just our allies, but we as Americans would face from this domino effect you're describing. If Ukraine falls to the Russians, Moldova's next, and then you do have Russia on NATO's borders, and the risk of confrontation between Russia and NATO just skyrockets. I just wanted to draw you out on that a little bit in two ways, because I may be paraphrasing here a little bit, but I've heard you say things like, if Putin is successful in Ukraine, that this would be a catastrophe for Western democracy. How do you draw that link? A lot of people probably don't see that. Well, Ukraine's over there, Moldova's over there. How is this really going to affect democracy writ large if Putin wins in Ukraine? We may not want that to happen, but ultimately that may be what happens.
It's the domino effect. I mean, if we take the position of it's not our conflict, not our problem, you could see how quickly these conflicts can spread. You could see, if we weren't defending Israel against Iran and its terror proxies, and Israel wasn't capable of fighting back with U.S. military weapons and support, obviously you would have a catastrophe there. If we allowed China to continue unimpeded with their economic coercion that they engage in, trying to seize control of ports and waterways in the South China Sea and in South America and off the coast of Africa, if we just allow that to happen and say, not our responsibility, we're all the way over here, very quickly the world order changes. And that has a tremendous impact economically on the U.S. If countries start using, Chinese-backed currency, as opposed to the dollar, that would be catastrophic for our economy. If China controlled the trade routes, that would be catastrophic for our economy. So these issues are completely intertwined. And while we don't want to spend or expend U.S. blood and treasure on endless wars, we have to be cognizant of America's role in the world, and that requires peace through strength. It requires a strong military. It requires strong foreign policy, utilizing soft power. What the president has already been able to do in terms of bringing some of these conflicts to an end, whether you talk about Azerbaijan and Armenia, or you talk about the Congo, you talk about India and Pakistan. These are critically important. It requires American leadership. China's not interested in resolving conflict. They foment it. Russia's certainly not interested in resolving conflict. They create it. So this is obviously a responsibility as leader of the free world. And I think what the president has been able to do, especially with our European allies, by forcing our NATO allies to pay more towards shared defense, is a step in the right direction.
So you took my next question directly out of my mouth, which was really about, this connecting our kind of domestic economic policy in the U.S. with these big questions about foreign policy and the world order. But I want to draw you out on something you alluded to. Because you sit in the Financial Services Committee, you're so good at connecting how the global financial industry is so linked into our foreign policy. And you alluded to this desire by our adversaries, most notably Russia and China, to try to unseat the US dollar as the global reserve currency, and why this is so dangerous to the future of our prosperity and our global leadership. Can you dig into that a little bit more? What will be the real consequences if the US dollar is no longer the default reserve currency for countries around the world? What if it's replaced by the Chinese, yuan? What would that mean in real terms?
It'd be catastrophic for Americans. The value of the dollar would plummet. And so our buying power would plummet with it, and costs would rise. And obviously, it would have a tremendous impact on our debt. And so there would be a ripple effect across the market. But the fact is, you have Brazil, Russia, India, China, the BRIC countries, have been seeking to do this for years. Yeah. And this is something, that they understand. American dominance economically has been centered in large measure because the U.S. is the reserve currency, the U.S. dollar. So this is, and because our financial markets are the envy of the world. Our ability to create capital and for businesses to have access to capital, all of that will change if the U.S. is not the reserve currency. So there are real challenges and threats to that. But that is why foreign policy is so important. It has a tremendous impact. Even when people don't think, oh, this impacts me, it does. Yeah. Are there changes that need to be made? Absolutely. Is some of what was happening at USAID, some of the decisions that were being made were counter to American foreign policy and American interest. But you don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, and we need to have a balance on this. And so that's why it's so important to continue to promote U.S. foreign policy.
And soft power, you need hard power behind it, but you need that. So the tip of the spear, I think any U.S. military officer and commander will tell you that, we don't want to send our men and women into battle unless we absolutely have to. And
military force should be the last resort.
Exactly.
And obviously, you want to use every diplomatic means necessary. It's why the president, by the way, has tried to engage with Putin. Ignoring him is not an answer. You have to engage. But in the absence of good faith negotiation, in the absence of a real willingness to end this war in Ukraine, then the American government must take steps to implement sanctions, and Europe must get off Russian gas. And in the absence of that, this will continue in perpetuity. So you have to be able to balance both, soft power with hard power, some of it economic, some of it military.
Absolutely. So I have a lightning round of questions for you. Now, I'm going to just warn you, these are the most controversial questions I've asked so far, okay?
Sounds
So, here we go. I asked this of everyone, it's not just you. Dogs or cats?
dogs.
Whoa, that was a straight answer. Very, very clear. Okay, beer or wine?
Wine. Red.
Moldova. Okay, could have guessed that. Hot dog or burger?
Burger.
Okay. Now it gets more controversial because you're from New York. Okay. But you're gonna have to take sides here. Mets or Yankees?
Yankees.
Knicks or Nets?
Knicks.
Jets or Giants? Last Giants? Wow, that was easy. You're
And
gonna
don't forget my New York Rangers. I'm a hockey fan too.
that was next on my list, but I don't want to keep going, because you're gonna get a bunch of angry notes.
Those are easy.
Yeah.
Those are easy.
That was easy for you. Okay, my last one is not, it's not a multiple choice. What goes on your bagel?
Oh, that I split sometimes. I love butter and I love cream cheese with scallions.
Cream cheese and scallions.
Yeah.
Nothing else.
No.
Just the basics.
Yeah.
All right. I'm a salmon person. I like my lox bagel, but
I'm all for salmon, but like not on a bagel.
fair enough. You're very decisive. Not everybody we talk to is so decisive about these questions because that dog
Like what I like.
question, it stumps people. It's very controversial. You don't want to have, the pro cat lobby on you, which, it exists.
Yeah, I'm a dog person.
Fair enough. Do you have a dog?
I do. Yeah, Cavachon, a mix between a King Charles and a Bichon.
Very cute.
Yep.
Dog's name?
Charlie.
Good dog name.
Yeah, he's
Solid dog name.
He's 8 years old.
That's very sweet. We'll have to include a picture of the dog at some point in this podcast. Just flash it up there. Congressman Lawler, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Alina.
I appreciate you making the case for Moldova, always such an important strategic partner and ally for the United States. Wish all the best to the Moldovan people ahead of their elections at the end of the month. And thank you for your leadership in the U.S. Congress. And thank you for liking dogs and wine. It was great to have you, and hope to see you again soon.
Thank you so much.
If you enjoyed listening, be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. You can find us on Apple Podcast, Spotify, or wherever else you get your podcasts. And to dive deeper into the issues shaping transatlantic policy, visit CEPA.org, where you'll find more expert analysis and research. And don't forget, you can find us all across social media for the latest updates, thought leadership, and exclusive content. Thanks for listening.